Can you give a commitment, a promise that no one will be moved on without somewhere to go?
That will be if we pursue that as an option. And again, as I said, all options are on the table, and we need to be able to get the advice from lots of different people who have different perspectives on what the issue and what the problem and challenge actually is.
Okay, Mr. Luxon, let's talk about the problem and then the challenge. The problem is that the New Zealand government's imported too many people into New Zealand in a very short space of time, which has put enormous pressure on a limited housing supply. It's not rocket science, is it? This has allowed Luxon's mates, the landlords, to push up rents to levels that a lot of people just cannot afford nowadays. And because successive New Zealand governments have got rid of most social housing, for the sole reason of pushing more demand towards private landlords like yourself, Mr. Luxon, and most other members of Parliament. And the visible Auckland CBD homelessness issue is only the tip of the iceberg. The 2023 census identified nearly 112,500 people as being severely housing deprived. And these numbers just keep on rising. More and more people are living in old buses or old caravans, and more people are living in shelters without basic amenities. From the census, the proportion living without shelter, roofless or rough sleeper, living in an improvised dwelling or shelter, or living in a mobile dwelling increased 29.5% from 7.8 per 10,000 people in 2018 to 10.1 per 10,000 people in 2023. You have this growing number of people suffering at the same time that you have the mainstream media spewing out fluff pieces about how great house price rises are and how much capital gain you might be making. The society is turning more and more dystopian if you really think about it. The haves are living in an alternate society to the have-nots. So what can be done to fix the problem? Well, it is simple. Two things will go a long way to fix this problem completely. First of all, turn off the tap of incoming people. What sort of psychopath will be bringing in over 100,000 people per year as more and more Kiwis are being forced onto the street anyway? This is one of the biggest betrayals that I have witnessed by any Prime Minister, and it can even be compared to the ending child poverty. Remember that treachery from Jacinda Ardern? If Luxon stops the inflow of people, then rent will come back down to more affordable levels and more Kiwis will be able to put a roof over their heads. Now I know that this might mean that Luxon's friends might not be able to go on 3 cruises per year and they may only be able to go on 2, but this is the sacrifices that these poor landlords will just have to make. The second big cure to the homelessness crisis is right there for the taking. And it won't even cost the National Party many votes, because a lot of the people who will be affected don't even live in New Zealand. The last census recorded 225,168 unoccupied dwellings on census day. Now there is a link to this data in the description. There is no way on this earth that all of those people were just out for the night on census day. So there is a massive problem with unoccupied homes. And anyone who lives in any Auckland suburb will be able to point at the homes that are obviously not lived in. They're everywhere. But these empty homes are also becoming more common all over the country because of a warping of the New Zealand housing market. Years ago, a batch was just an old shack on a bit of unused land near the beach. Owning these batches did no harm to nobody. But now a batch is a full-sized home that a family would have once occupied. You only have to go to Whitianga, Whangamata, Onitangi, Mount Maunganui, Paihia, Wanaka, Queenstown, etc., etc. And you can see full-sized, once family homes all locked up for most of the year. This is turning many areas into ghost towns, and it's taking real housing out of the market and pushing more and more locals further and further away from their hometowns. And there is no penalty for this greedy hoarding of property. In fact, there is only rewards. Their house prices just keep on attracting more and more capital gains. So why should this activity of buying homes and leaving them empty be allowed to continue, or in fact be promoted, if all it is doing is making New Zealand worse for everyone else, and it is making more and more people homeless? By all means, if you want a second or third or fourth or fifth home and you want to leave it empty, then fill your boots. But just make sure you build it from scratch. And if you don't want to do that and you want to keep on buying up existing housing stock and leaving those houses just to gather cobwebs, then you should absolutely have to pay a massive reparation tax to repay society for the damage that you are creating. The MPs will be the first to cry foul of this obvious fix to the homelessness crisis because most of them own batches in places like, I don't know, let's say Onatangi for example. Wouldn't it be incredible if for just once, just one Prime Minister could finally come to their senses and see that doing the right thing by New Zealand and not just working in their own selfish interests was the right thing to do? Only then will New Zealand become a truly great place to live again that it deserves to be for everyone and not just for the rich few. Obviously, this Prime Minister is not going to change his ways and suddenly become concerned for your average Kiwi, so it's going to take a new leader to come to the fore. But who that person will be, I don't know. There is nobody worthy of any of our votes right now. And before I go, I would just like to go back to that graphic from the 2023 census. Just look at that. Dwellings that have mould and dwellings that have damp. The green is from 2018 and the blue is from 2023. So there has been a very slight improvement, which will probably be from the Healthy Homes initiative. But it's still disgraceful. Look how high them numbers are. And just look at the difference between owner-occupied homes and rental properties. Does anyone else find it insidious that so many landlords still think it's acceptable to have tenants living in squalor as they themselves live in nice, warm, dry homes? And to think of the number of times that I have heard landlords moaning that they live in worse conditions than their tenants. And it's just obviously such a lie. And horrifically, there has been a recent increase in the number of real estate investors into the New Zealand housing market. The RBNZ put this terrible news out last week, and there is a link to this paper in the description. Just look at that. Investors have once again taken over owner-occupier lending, and they are going to the moon by the looks of things. The landlord's confidence is back. Obviously they know that their man Luxon has got their back, and he's proved that, hasn't he, with his tax breaks. This is why it is more imperative than ever that their man gets shown the door as soon as possible. We can only hope that recent talk of a capital gains tax will be the much needed salt to the backs of these parasites, and hopefully it will slow down their greed at least until someone with a moral compass takes power. But who knows? Maybe that won't ever happen, and maybe everything will just keep on getting worse. And if that is the case, then say goodbye to another tranche of young Kiwis to the West Island. So yes guys, thanks for watching, and I will hopefully see you all in the next one. Cheers for that.